Hi all, and welcome to this week's racing-based preview of the 2016 Caulfield Cup. We picked the winner last year, so to help me find another one, I've got Rick Chapman on the other line. Rick, how are you, mate? Looking forward to a good Caulfield Cup this year?
I've been winning heaps lately, so my pockets are full, and yes, I'm ready to wager because I think it's a good even field, but I do think there's a couple of standouts.
Yeah, I agree. One in particular that stands out for mine, but maybe if we start at the top of this field, Rick, and get through a few of these runners and see if we give them any chance.
Yeah, well, the top of the weights is Preferment. Great old horse, well, great young horse, but I just don't think he's going as well as he used to. And given that he has to give some of these enterprising and emerging stayers weight, I don't rate him to be in the top 5. He probably finishes in the top 10, and he does have Hugh Bowman in the saddle, which will help. But I see him running, a solid 8th and getting people in for his Melbourne Cup campaign. But not for mine, not for this race.
Yeah, I agree, Rick. He was 4 lengths from Jamaica, who was a further 3.5 lengths from Hartnell last start in the Turnbull. I can't see him turning tables on Jamaica in this one. And as well, the second horse in the field, our Ivanhoe as well. He was further back in the field. He did place in this race last year. But again, he just doesn't look like he's going as good. He doesn't look like he's ready to win yet. So it's a bit hard to tip him to turn the tables on Jamaica as well.
Yeah, I don't think our Ivanhoe's doing. I loved his first up run, and I thought, hello, he's come back, and then he was scratched the next start, which always worries me, and finished too far back last start. The thing about those two horses, Preferment and our Ivanhoe, they're good horses, Group 1 horses. We know they're great horses, but you cannot give that much weight to emerging horses like we're going to get to down the bottom of the weights, and for that, he finishes, 5 lengths off the win in about 10th spot, our Ivanhoe.
Yep, agreed. First, the internationals, Exosphere or Exospheric now, with Lee and Anthony Friedman. Reports say, Rick, that he lost a lot of weight on the trip out here. He struggled to start putting it back on, and it started to come good, but that's a major concern for mine when you're heading into one of the toughest races of the year. So a line through Exospheric for me.
Yeah, well, I've got him in the mix simply because of his European form. And a few of these have got very similar European form. And that European form is very strong. I did a piece earlier today on the top 5, and I had him in the top 5 based on the fact that he's gone to the Friedman camp. I liked that. I didn't like the fact that he didn't travel well. But they won't have him in this race if he's not right. And I'm of the opinion, too, that if our Ivanhoe was the Friedman's pick of the 2, then Damien would be on it. But because they've put him on this fellow, I think that perhaps he is coming good. His form is outstanding in Europe, and we've seen Europeans come over here first up and do well. So I'm not dismissing him just yet, and I've got him in the top 5.
Okay, next to the internationals, Scottish. He brings some solid form, ultra consistent, this galloper.
Yeah, brings very similar form. In fact, because he's lightly raced, I might have him slightly in front of Exospheric. And I just think that's a wonderful joke, isn't it? That he used to be Exosphere, and we had an Exosphere here, and they were both Group 1 level horses, but much maligned in many ways. But anyway, on to Scottish. His form is outstanding. This is a really good horse. And he's drawn particularly well. I love the fact that the international Godolphin people have reinstated Karen McAvoy back in the blue silks. This horse is in the top 3 for mine. He's really good, and he's emerging, and he has won at 24-14, and he's got form around international Group 1 horses at that distance. So do not dismiss Scottish. He's a very smart horse.
Yeah, agreed. Top 3 for me as well, Rick. He's got some good form, beating Victor Paris, who ran runner-up in this race last year. So that form stands out to anyone looking at the form guide. He always puts in a good race, which is what you want to see as well. He's travelled well. So of the internationals, and Karen's riding fantastic at the moment. So he definitely goes in the mix for me.
Yeah, next one, Sir Isaac Newton is an interesting horse. He beat Exospheric at their last start, and he's got great form around Highland Reel, who he knows a wonder horse throughout the world, no matter where he goes. He was very disappointing last start in Ireland, Sir Isaac Newton. However, Aidan O'Brien's brought him out here, and Aidan O'Brien, you just can't knock his ability with a horse or his judgment. So to have him here in the mix, you'd have to rate him. He's very good. He's won at Group 3 level in the last couple of months, beating good horses. And as I say, he's finished, a couple of lengths behind Highland Reel and the King George, the 6th at Group 1 level 2. So if we like Scottish and Exospheric, we have to like this fellow a bit too, and he's probably going to be longer odds. So he might be worth having a little nibble at. I've got him in the top probably 6 or 7. More likely a Melbourne Cup horse than a Caulfield, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. I like him for the Melbourne Cup more so, Rick. But they've both drawn well, these two as well. Scottish Sir Isaac Newton, barriers 7 and 9. So they'll get the chance in the run. I guess you just don't know the internationals, but I think when it comes to the exotics, you've got to have them in there. I won't be tipping any of them to win, but you've got to have them in there in the exotics because they always seem to run well. At least one of them do. So
that's exactly right. And those 3 in particular have very similar form. Very similar form. So I'd be having all 3, in your exotics. I know we can't have every single horse, but they're too good. The form internationally is too good to miss out on. Then we come to a local horse. A Fallen Star. So badly out of form, I couldn't see him winning with a head start. Sorry. Finishes about 14th for mine, Tarzino.
Yeah, I was just not happy to skip through these next 2 quickly, Rick, because Tarzino and Al Moonquith haven't recaptured their best form as yet. I can't see them figuring the finish here, so I'm happy to bypass them at the moment.
Yeah, he'll run last, Al Moonquith. Which brings us to one of our favourite horses, collectively, Sir John Hawkwood. I've got him in the top 4. I just think he's going to map beautifully, and his dash this time up is so solid. He still has a light weight on his back. He's drawn perfectly. He's going to get a magnificent run in about 5th spot, probably one off the fence. And, he'll give Blake Spriggs, who really is essentially a provincial / bush jockey, he'll give him the ride of his life. And at some stage, he might look the winner. Sir John Hawkwood, don't be surprised if he bobs into a place. But I've got him running 4th, but a very healthy watch on him.
Yeah, I agree as well, Rick. I tipped him for the Metropolitan last start, and remember when we discussed that one, Rick, you said, you liked him too, but you just thought he might have been 1 run short. So when I seen him come up in this field, I thought you might have been all over him. That run was a good run in the Metropolitan. It was a great ride too. Down in the weights, the Metrop, some handy horses have come through the Metrop and won the Caulfield Cup. I think Railings and Torquay. So he can emulate the deeds of those 2 and be somewhere in the finish, I think. He's not my top pick, but he's definitely around the mark.
Yeah, exactly right. That brings us to Articus, who's now owned by Australians. He's a German horse, and it's very hard to line up his form because it's all German, even though it's at Group 1 and Group 2 level with these horses. But what we can line up is Andreas Waller, who's bringing him here, and he has such a success rate. So if he's bringing him here, then you know that this is a really good horse. I originally had him in the top 3, and then the more I looked at the Irish and the English form, the more I shunted him down the list a little bit. I may live to regret that because German form is pretty solid, but I've got him finishing in the top 7 or so, and no surprise to see him run the race of his life and throw himself in the Melbourne Cup contention, which I think is their grand final. So Articus just missing the places for mine.
Yeah, well, Waller did this with Protectionist when he came out, Rick. He gave him 1 lead-up run as well, and he ran a real eye-catching run. Then we know the story in the Melbourne Cup. He dominated, so I agree. I think this is his lead-up run for the Melbourne Cup. I'm not that keen on his form, to be honest, but there is that Waller factor, and you'd be silly not to have him in the mix. But yeah, I'm leaning towards the Melbourne Cup for him. So don't have him in my top 5, Articus. So one that I do have in my top 5 is the Godolphin horse Tally. he's drawn wide. That's a bit of a concern, but I'm anticipating he'll go forward and he'll run a cheeky race.
Well, we know he can stay. He ran third in the AJC or ATC Derby behind Mika in second in it. What was the name of the Kiwi? It was Tobago, I think it was, that won the race. He can say his form has done nothing but improve since he's come back this campaign. So on his strength of his last start effort, you'd have to rate him a big show because of those factors. He can stay. He's getting fitter, and his last start was outstanding on the speed the whole way. What I don't like is what you mentioned. He's drawn deep, and he's going to be wide all the way unless he scoots across at a ridiculous pace to lead them from the outside. And if he does that, he sets it up probably for the other Godolphin horse. But I can't have Tally because of the outside barrier, to be honest. He'll weaken in the last little bit to finish in the top 12 probably, but I can't see him.
Yeah, that is a concern. Like I said, when you mentioned the Derby run, Rick, he was caught 3 wide the whole trip there, and that was a massive run. He loomed up. He was going to challenge Jamaica and Tobago, and he just peaked on his run after sitting wide. He covered more ground than any horse in that field, so we know he stays. He sat up on the pace last start. Jamaica went whoosh past him, but he's had 3 runs this campaign. I think he's got a bit more upside than Jamaica. And 4th up from a spell last time, he beat Palantino. He belted Palantino at Moonee Valley, and that's just after Palantino had won the Group 1. So 4th up, I think he's ready to peak, Tally. Barrier is a concern, but like I said, he's one of my top hopes.
Jaws in the top 3 or 4. Barrier's 1 to say 5. I'm all over him in the top 4 finishing, but it's too circular, this track, and if they get trapped wide, he can't win, and if he has to go forward at breakneck speed, I don't think he can win. But one horse that can win is the mare Jamaica. We go back to last time over this trip, was in the Oaks. It was in the Oaks.
Yep.
Just slaughtered, just absolutely slaughtered by a horrible Damien Oliver ride, which I rarely say because I think Damien Oliver is one of the 3 best riders in the country. But that day, his judgment was off, and he made that filly work too hard. But gee, she's racing well this campaign. I mean, she got slaughtered by Hartnell last start, but then everything has, and he might do it to Winks next start too. So you just her start before that when she won at Caulfield, won at this track, and it was pretty authoritative. And you'd have to think that off that, given that she can stay with no weight on the back, Jamaica's going to be in the top 2 or 3 for mine, and I think she's going to be very hard to beat. Home track as well. A lot to like about Jamaica's chances.
Yeah, she's a clear top pick for mine, Rick. And if you go back and watch that last run too, watch it closely, you see the run was better than it actually appeared to, although it was outstanding. She, just before mid-race, she was settled to 3.5 lengths off of Hartnell. She fired up for a second briefly and charged up and got within a length of Hartnell. And then Nick Hall's taking control of her again, snagged her back. She dropped another 3 lengths behind Hartnell. So that little mid-race run where she just got fired up for a second would have taken a little bit out of her. So I'm not saying she would have beaten Hartnell last start, but she would have finished closer to him, or, he might have been tested more. But she would beat the rest of the field by a bit more. So I think the run was slightly better than it looked. 5th up, she set the peak. She won the Oaks, 5th up, the Victorian, the Crown Oaks. And then last campaign, as you said, she was in the Australian Oaks at the 5th up run, and she was backing up a week later after, another wide run against the boys the week before in the Derby. So, yeah, she's peaked for this. Nice weight. The barrier's not going to hurt her, and I can't see anything beating her.
Yeah, very hard to beat. Very hard to beat. She's your top pick. The very next horse in the saddlecloth order is my top pick. I think Real Love will win. I thought her second behind Awesome Rock, when she came from about 48 lengths off the lead, was outstanding. It took a bit out of her for her next start when she met Jamaica and carried more weight than her and finished 6 lengths behind her, but it was a run that was one of a horse who had been flattened by the big run the start before. But gee whiz, once she got fresh again and the legs returned, she was pretty dominant in that win at the Valley in the Group 3 race, where she carried a big weight, 58 kilos, and she joined in when she wanted to, and she beat them a la Hartnell style. I think you could run the same line over her that you just did over Jamaica. She is peaking perfectly. She's won up to 2,600. She's as tough as old boots. And significantly, from an old breeding buff, the last time we saw a 6-year-old mare by Desert King go to a Group 1 race in Melbourne, she won the Melbourne Cup. And, of course, that was Maccabi Diva. I'm not suggesting Real Love is Maccabi Diva, but, gee, she's a consistent horse. And I think the stars align. The preparation is so good, so meticulous, that with no weight on her back, she just sits beautifully back in about 8th or 9th spot and just pings. And if she comes home and accelerates with the dash that she showed last start, with no weight on her back, she will just ping to the lead, and they'll have their task running her down. I'm quietly confident at about $9, $10 that Real Love is the each way bet for mine.
Yeah, she's a top pick as well, Rick. You know, she's hitting her straps at the right time. The two things that were the concern for me was that obviously that 7 length, 6.5 lengths behind Jamaica, a couple of starts back, and then the fact no horses come out of the JRA Cup to win the Caulfield Cup in at least 30 or 40 years. So two concerns, but she's trained by Darren Weir. He is a master. He's the man of the moment. I agree. She gets a great run, sort of just forward of midfield, or maybe around midfield, and she'll be hitting the line hard. So we'll definitely be going in my multiples. Real Love.
Very good. Set Square was probably going to be my tip until that inglorious performance at Flemington last start behind Hartnell. I know his final 400 metres upset a lot of apple carts, but it was too disappointing to be true. Set Square. I know she's come back and done well at these Group 1 races, the Caulfield Melbourne Cup in the past, but and it wouldn't be a big surprise for me if she runs really well here too, because her previous form behind Jamaica and Awesome Rock in those races that we just talked about with our other mares was outstanding, equal to the others, but disappointed so much last start that I've got her finishing about 9th.
You're cocky in the background, Rick.
Well, we live in the bush and we've got plenty of birds. They wake me up at 6 o'clock every morning, so never a chance to sleep in this joint, but yes, there's lots of them about.
All right, yeah, I did like Set Square earlier in this campaign, Rick, but the same. I've dropped off of her and can't have her after that last run. Big Memories, the next on the list. I think he's a good stayer. He's always promised a bit. The time was a bit of a concern last start in the Herbert Power. They ran 2:29, which is not really what you need to going into a Caulfield Cup. They're generally run quicker than this, so he doesn't drop a lot of weight. Is a chance. I think he's 4th up. He has room for improvement. I think I'll probably put him in my multiples. He could sneak a placing somewhere, but I can't see him winning.
You're beaten in the Herbert Power, which is about 6 lengths inferior to this, with 53 kilos last start. That right there puts a line straight through him for mine. He's a tough toiler, good handicapper, but this is not a good handicap race. This is an outstanding handicap race, so no chance for mine.
That's right. Sacred Master, you give him any chance, Rick?
Oh, look, I do, because he's such a good stayer and he's got no weight on his back. And I was on him for a squillion in the Metrop, and it wasn't a bad run. And I think that Metrop was a good Metrop this year. Sir John Hawkwood, we've got in the top 3 or 4. So this horse finishes 3/4 of a length behind him and makes him so much better at the weight. So he's going to go in the mix for mine. He's a stayer. He'll run all day. And, he's drawn nicely, and occasionally Tommy Berry rides fantastic races. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Sacred Master is right in this finish and sort of underlines himself as a lightweight Melbourne Cup chance. I've got him finishing. I know I've got about 12 horses finishing in the top 7, but I think this horse might finish 4th or 5th. I like him a bit in this.
Yeah, he makes Sir John Hawkwood 1 kilo better at the weights, but he's had 5 runs this campaign. He's at his peak. Sir John Hawkwood's had the 2, and he has far more room for improvement. I can't see him getting past him. So I'm putting a line through him. Next one, Fanatic.
Yeah, she won I think she won the Oaks in New Zealand, but she's only had 2 runs since then, and they've both been ordinary. So if she wins, I'll take my shirt off and walk, 100 miles without it on in the sun, she's got no chance.
All right, something to look forward to for the Sydney Siders. Me too, Rick. Yeah, I can't have Fnatic. It's nowhere near them for mine. Pemberley, another one for Kieran Ma.
Yeah, he's drawn out in the car park. It was a good run last start. We questioned whether he'd get 2,400, but he got to the line nicely in Herbert Power. But again, for the same reasons, I'm throwing Big Memory out the window. You have to throw Pemberley. I know he's probably a more consistent horse than Big Memory, and he's got less weight to carry as well. But I just think it's 6 lengths below the top grade. Those races like the Herbert Power. So run a good 15th.
Yeah, I can see him around the same place as well. Great form. Just this is a big step up in class, and it's a bridge too far. So Go Dreaming could be the likely leader, I think, Rick. This one, Go Dreaming. So I don't think he's got much chance in the race, but he'll play an interesting part in setting the speed up for others that have more chance. So I'm bypassing him.
He's aptly named.
Yes. That's right, they're dreaming. Yep.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting comment because that early comment, because that determines the mapping of the race. If Go Dreaming goes forward, and he might have to because it's his only chance, where does Tally? What happens to Tally? Does he come across and sit on his outside, or does he try and go past Go Dreaming and lead? I think Go Dreaming will be up there, but I think they'll ease up and let Tally cross. But either way, he'll run last, Go Dreaming.
Yeah, I've mapped exactly that, Rick. I've got Go Dreaming leading. Jamaica will be kicking up. So I see not much choice for Tally than to go forward and sit outside Go Dreaming, which will give Jamaica the run right behind him, and she just goes banging the straight and wins. Ahead of maybe yours, Real Love.
There you go. The reserves, well, the Little Engine's a very good little stayer, but if he gets a run, I think he finishes in midfield. And if he doesn't get a run, he stays at home. Yeah,
agreed. And he's the Little Engine is a little horse, so no doubt the lightweight will see an improvement. But these are the big boys and girls, so this is a tough one for him.
Might have been interesting if this bottom horse, Vanguard Mask, had got a run, because he can stay and he's got European form and he's acclimatised a bit now. He's been in Australia. He wouldn't be the roughest, and if he runs in the first 5 or 6 off his European form, that's probably a fair effort, but he probably won't get a run. He's going to give up a start in the Caulfield Cup.
Well, he's by Monsun, who we've seen Fiorente, protectionist as well. So that sire has a great record in the Melbourne Cup. If he can get a run in there, he'll stay the trip, you'd think, Rick, and could be more of a chance that I could see him in the Caulfield Cup.
Exactly. So to recap, my top 5 will be Real Love to win, from Scottish, Jamaica, Exospheric and Sir John Hawkwood. That's how I see them running. They'll be the quintet that I would be taking in my first 4 and boxing in my trifectas and exactas. But I'm going to have a lash at Real Love each way and a saver on Scottish.
Yeah, I'm not far off you, Rick. I've got Jamaica. Obviously, she's mine for top. And then for the minors, I will be going Tally, Scottish, Sir John Hawkwood. Not sure who else I'll throw in there yet, but I find it's a lot better. These trifectas can pay massive. A couple of years ago, we had a trifecta in the Caulfield Cup that paid $18,000. So it's best to go wide in these races. It's not going to pay that much if Jamaica wins. But it's best to go wide with these, and I'll have my exotics piece for the Caulfield Cup up on bettingpro.com.au later. And with a bit of luck, we can jag a big trifecta.
You got to have, if you like punting on horses, you're completely mad and need to give yourself an uppercut if you don't have exotics in these big races, because they pay overs and they're fun, and you land them. You know, it's a great day for you and your family. So yeah, I agree. You have to have exotics.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, that's a bit of work done. That's this year's Caulfield Cup covered. We'll be back next week to have a look at the Cox as well, Rick.
Yeah, well, that's a match in 2. May as well look at it right now. No, I'm not going to give away my my thoughts on the Cox Plate just yet, but we've got two of the best middle distance horses in the world going to clash next week, and wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. All right, well, this week's the Caulfield Cup's the main one. Everyone enjoy a great weekend of racing. Gamble responsibly. Have a great day on the punt, and we'll see you back here next week.
Exactly, but remember, punting is easy. Bye now.